Go, Uncle Andy.
First to speak in support of this Land Transport Revenue Amendment Bill, and as Chair of the Select Committee that's going to be receiving this, looking forward to considering this bill, hearing the submissions, and I know we'll do that diligently because it looks as though there's going to be quite a number of technical elements to the bill. So two key things which have been raised already in the discussion. First one of them is the ruck system and trying to make sure that it is modernised, and you look at all the other areas which we've modernised as a society, and by and large people have adopted that, and they've never looked back on that adoption. They want things that are effective, efficient, quick, easy to use, but the point that Simon Court has just made around privacy, that is a strong issue for many of the people who communicate with us as well, not just in this area but across the board, and so that will also be something that New Zealand First is very, very anxious about, making sure that RUC systems are not an intrusion into people's privacy and are used for anything other than the purpose that they are intended to do, which is to support investment in the transport system. The second one is just to say, Madam Speaker, that we have a huge transport deficit in this country. The aspirations, we've already heard from the other side of the room that money is taken from a lot of the regions where it will be needed for investment in maintaining the roading infrastructure and taken to build some of the roads of national significance. The reality is that we know that there is a big funding deficit. You can only deal with that by a number of different ways. Well, the first one of them is to earn more revenue. Tolling is part of that, potentially in some areas. Second one of that, of course, is to extend out the time frame which you make those investments. And we don't want to be undermining the investment that's actually made in the standard of the roads themselves, the bridges themselves across the country. So that means probably extending out the capital program, the roads of national significance. And I think the Minister has indicated that's exactly what will be happening over time. Just in terms of some of the comments which have been made around tolling, the Manawatu Tararua Highway has already been mentioned by my friend over there, Tangi Utakiri. New Zealand First was also very unhappy with the idea of tolling that road as well, and made that very, very clear for two reasons. One, this was not about advancing a road and getting that road built quicker, because the reality was by the time the tolling idea came up, it was 9/10 of the way built already. It was sprung on those communities late in the piece. And the second one was, it was very much a replacement road for the Manawatu Gorge, which of course by that stage failed and been closed. And you think in that context as well, and the bill talks about this, about the need for having viable alternative routes. And I do ask you sometimes to think about whether there might well be a road there, but if it twists and turns and goes up and down the hills, it is not necessarily a viable alternative route. And so we've got to be thinking about that, and that probably is one of the technicalities that there will be in this process. The second one, Madam Speaker, in terms of this, is the private sector involvement. And I think the experience so far in New Zealand has been somewhat checkered. I mean, the private sector involvement in Transmission Gully, success, not success. Well, there's been legal cases, there's been some of the standard of the delivery and the maintenance has been somewhat checkered, the price of the delivery has been again somewhat checkered. So it's not just simply saying the private sector is going to do it better and can get a return from that. And I think Julianne Gentrin speaking also said, well, don't expect the tolls to pay for these roads. They might well make a contribution towards them, but to think that the private sector would just, without some form of state funding, and of course that's exactly what's happened in the example of Transmission Gully, there's an ongoing commitment by the state to keep on paying for that road. Without that, the tolls on those roads are simply not, by and large, going to pay for them. An example where they did, for example, going back, will be the Auckland Harbour Bridge. But by and large, they are not necessarily going to do that. So there's going to be quite a lot of detail to be thought through about those sort of things. And looking forward very much, Madam Speaker, to considering this bill through the Transport and Infrastructure Committee. I commend this bill to the House.
I wonder how much it hurts him to go, yep, I support this bill after talking trash about it, because he offered one of the strongest arguments against this bill and then stood up and said, I support it. And
actually, he's mentioned some very good scenarios
yes,
of where tolling has flooded the bank accounts, being Auckland Harbour Bridge, the Tauranga Harbour Bridge.
Yeah.
You know, but like places where tolling does not necessarily flood the books. Route K in Tauranga.
It's kind of weird. It's weird watching Andy, because I was like, I like the arguments he puts forward, but then he says, I commend this bill to the House. And I was like, bro, I feel like I'm watching someone, have a bipolar moment here. But he's like, I agree with Julianne Genter, but I support this bill. And I'm like, someone free Uncle Andy, please. Free him. Free him from what is New Zealand First. Please. Someone needs to free my man. I know Kiwi Skirt is not a fan of him, but this is why I do like him, because he's speaking as a mayor of experience, but he's also got some really good points. And I'm like, dude needs to I don't know who's holding him captive in New Zealand First, but someone needs to release him.
Do you want to get to the super chat?
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Guide, the Order Paper Podcast. wanna take a